Let's be honest, I'm a psychologist, so I'm basically paid to notice when someone's dodging the truth, whether it's a client, a friend, or more often than I'd like to admit, myself after that third hobnob. So when those videos pop up on YouTube, you know the ones, those with the tantalising titles such as ex-CIA spy reveals how to spot a liar, I'm like everybody else, like I'm reeled in hook, line and sinker. The scene opened with some suitably dramatic music, the intense stare of the ex-spy while the camera zooms in, and it happens. Those fateful words tumble out of their mouths in the same way those Cooper's Hill nutters roll down after cheese. If they look up and to the right, they're lying. Ugh, my stomach curdles in the same way it did over a decade ago after one too many Jaeger bombs. I really did, but I have this nasty habit of loving the idea of something and then going and diving into the research. It's one of those pesky university habits that's stuck for the last 20 plus years. And when it comes to body language, I've read the studies and devoured the meta-analysis. I've even bought a few books just to see whether there was some glimmer of hope for this supposed science. Sadly, most of what's sold as body language science has been debunked longer than my old MySpace page, and yes, I really am that old. Okay, so rant over, time to pull you over to my side of the fence with some cold, hard factuals. So here comes the 5 biggest body language myths, what the research really says, and most importantly, what actually works when it comes to catching a fib, whether in therapy, police interviews, or just over brunch with a bestie. Because if I didn't give you something to replace your body language guesswork with, then that would just be mean. So the myths that just refuse to die. Number 1, eye direction tells you who's lying. You know this one. This is the one that says, looking up and to the right, they're making things up, looking down and to the left, and they're pulling on their past memories and therefore telling the truth. So back when I first heard this, it sounded like nonsense because of a little known, 100% proven neurological fact. So the entire brain is actually mapped in reverse in left-handed people. This isn't a joke, it's like legit science, which means if we were using eye direction to access certain portions of the brain, things would be reversed for left-handed people. But according to body language, that isn't what happens. And want to hear some more really uncomfortable truths? Well, when researchers actually filmed people lying and telling the truth in 23 of the 24 studies, there was zero evidence of this left-right distinction, which means eye direction tells you exactly one thing, that somebody has eyes. Number 2, microexpressions are like Pinocchio's nose. Now, Paul Ekman, the dude behind the concept of microexpressions, is brilliant for spotting emotion, but catching lies with split-second flashes, that's more difficult than finding the toy that your child desperately wants for Christmas but is never spoken about, and now every single shop is flashing that big old sold out sign. Ekman even spent time training people to read microexpressions on other people's faces, and even then, their accuracy scores hover around 48%. And in real terms, that's less accurate than whipping out a coin from your pocket, flipping it, and the coin predicting whether somebody's telling the truth or not. And even AI has a hard time figuring us humans out. And despite its phenomenal processing ability, it's only accurate 65% of the time. Yeah, more accurate than that coin toss, but still not something you should rely on, especially for giant decisions such as figuring out whether your bestie and your partner are more than just friends. On the flip side, I guess we can chillax a little knowing that the AI robot apocalypse is a good few years off yet. Number 3, liars fidget more. No, lying is hard work. And think about the last time that you were caught in a lie. Were you a smooth psychopathic operator, your behaviour barely changing as you slipped from truth teller to yarn spinner? Or did you temporarily reincarnate as a deer trapped in the headlights while you raced around in your mind trying to find something plausible, not that bad, and which somehow makes it seem like you're a good person? When lying, most people freeze or drastically reduce their natural gestures, such as those with their hands. And this enables the body to quickly divert energy to the brain as a way to compensate for the increased cognitive load, which happens when you're trying to craft a narrative on the fly. And in fact, fidgeting is way more common in anxious truth tellers who are being grilled than those who are covering their asses. Number 4, there is a universal checklist. Woohoo! Oh, wait. I should say there was a universal checklist. So here's the goss. Back in 2015, the USA's Transportation Security Administration, the TSA, spent $1 billion of hardworking American taxpayers' cash creating a checklist to help their officers spot terrorists. This list, more commonly known by its super snappy title, Screening of Passengers by Observation Technique System, which was thankfully nicknamed SPOT so that people would remember it, compiles 92 tells, such as yawning or whistling, which are all supposedly indicative of terrorism. Look, don't get me wrong, like people whistling can be annoying, but to call somebody a terrorist because they like a good whistle is, I think, a little bit harsh. Insanely, this cash was spent before it was tested scientifically, and once Spot went under the microscope, sadly, it showed almost zero scientific validity or reliability, which in non-science speak means it was about as useful as a trapdoor on a canoe. But don't worry, the public fanfare and buckets of cash weren't completely wasted. Despite being utterly useless, in stepped the marketing team. Out popped the rebranded Behaviour Detection and Analysis, BDA, and hey presto, it's back in action. Thankfully, the vast majority of countries in the world quietly shoved it on a shelf and went back to using science-backed methods to spot criminals. And number 5, just watch the body and you'll know. Now, I'm sorry to be the one to break it to you, but no matter how much you desperately want to be a human lie detector, giving your friends, partners and enemies the subtle side eye when your suspicions are roused, sadly, humans just aren't that good at spotting when somebody's telling porkies. In fact, overall, when we use only non-verbal cues, we have a success rate of around 54%, which is a touch better than pulling out that coin from your pocket and giving it a flip, but only slightly. Also, it takes a lot of training for very little actual reward. Now don't panic though, because there's a simple, sneaky and powerful little trick that you can use to spot deception from a mile off, no squinty eyes necessary. So what actually works? Verbal content and evidence. So despite the persistent push for body language being the thing, the future of lie detection isn't about reading faces. It's about pricking up your ears and tuning into the words that somebody is using and then checking these against the known facts. And the best results come from combining 2 simple research-backed methods, one tuned into the language somebody's using and the other takes inspiration from the magical sleight of hand. So first up, language detection. So tools such as criteria-based statement analysis, CBCA, scan or reality monitoring, which focus on the structure of the word somebody's using and think of it as though it's all about the story. And you can kind of ask yourself whether what somebody's saying mimics a Hollywood blockbuster or whether it sounds more like a toddler explaining why there's no more cake, blaming fantastical beasts without even realising their face is covered in chocolate. Do the details perhaps reflect real life in their vividness, spontaneity, and at the same time also follow a logical pattern? If not, this is an indication that something's just not quite right. And then the second part is the gotcha. And this is when you inject a little SU, which stands for strategic use of evidence, into the conversation. So things nicely progress from something's up to you're not wingling out of this no matter how much you try. And if you've ever raised your own kids or even babysat somebody else's, chances are you've deployed SU more than once. This is the little trick of holding your cards close to your chest and letting them box themselves into a corner. Simply let them talk, nod along as though the yarn they're spinning is tighter than the finest ball of Women's Institute silkiness at the local hobbycraft. Then have your Columbo moment, gently introducing the evidence that you've been holding back with a little one more thing. Finally, try to contain your emotions as your inside voice smirks gotcha. So you might now be asking, why does this combo work so well? Well, it's because liars will try their hardest to dodge facts that they think you don't know as a way to avoid self-incrimination. By asking open questions such as walk me through Tuesday from the moment that you woke up, you force them to commit to a narrative. Then and only then do you let it slip that you have some contradictory evidence and all you're doing is trying to clear some things up. Slide in your proofs such as, That's weird, because I can see that your phone pinged near the river at 11 p.m. Could you help me understand how this might have happened? Truth tellers seamlessly roll with it. Liars stumble, hedge, or contradict themselves. And the best bit, the same linguistic leakage shows up when we lie to ourselves. And this is how you can use these techniques in therapy and life. So in my office, I'm definitely not catching criminals, but I am helping people to stop hiding from their own emotions. Things like guilt, shame, and fear all show up when somebody's dodging the truth, even from themselves. Their own language will always give them away. So things like, I suppose I felt a bit angry, or it kind of hurt, or the argument just sort of happened, or maybe mistakes were made instead of I cheated. These will always show when there's deflection. And when I gently reflect their own words back to them, which is kind of like my version of holding evidence, the softening language they've used to distance themselves from the situation collapses and the real emotion finally surfaces, thus allowing them to bypass the conscious security guard and slip into the subconscious where all the real healing takes place. And for years, I'd been using these techniques on myself and my clients without even realizing they were a thing. The moment I came across Scan randomly on a shared Facebook post, the light bulb went off in my head. Thankfully, you don't need to spend hundreds of hours learning these techniques. You can get started using this lie detection tool right now. And here's 5 dead simple tricks that you can use today. And if you want to catch yourself or others dodging the truth, then simply try these simple tricks this week. First up, listen for unnecessary softness. So phrases such as, I guess, kind of, sort of, I suppose. These all help to highlight when we're distancing from an experience, and if you need to do this, something's up. So once you hear phrases like this, simply ask yourself, what am I 100% certain I felt? Dig into the emotion, because your emotions will always tell you the truth. Next up, catch pronoun drops. And if you're confronted with an uncomfortable reality and notice that you subtly change things, such as I started the fight becomes something like the fight happened, you've sidestepped ownership, and this subtle shift is key. When you notice it happening, take a deep breath and throw yourself back into the story front and center. Affirm the facts strongly and pay attention to how your body reacts. Then do the work that you need to do to clear out the negative emotion and move into a place of peace. Next up, replace minimizer. So every time you catch yourself thinking things like, it wasn't that bad, stop what you're doing and analyze it from a slightly different perspective. So think about how you'd felt if somebody you love told you the same thing had happened to them. What emotion would you feel? Then remind yourself the experience didn't kill you, so don't let the memory be the thing that finishes you off. And when somebody reflects your own words back with evidence. So for example, you said you were fine, but you also told me you cried in the shower. And the easiest thing to do here is to slip into defensive mode. Don't. Instead, get curious. Also, try not to judge yourself. Simply explore the language shift, masking your emotions. Your mind is just doing as it was designed. And finally, keep a 2-column journal for 7 days. And yes, this is absolutely another nudge to splash the cash on something nice for yourself. And once you find that perfect journal, grab your ruler, draw a straight line down the middle of the page. On the left-hand side, capture as best you can, word for word, what you told yourself or others that seemed off somehow. Down the right hand side, record the evidence such as text, body sensations, or memory flashes. Take some time to scan the gaps between the left and the right columns, and that is where the truth resides. These 5 little tips alone can transform how you relate to your own story and put you on a path back to harmony. Look, the ex-spy is not evil, just outdated. That YouTube spy really isn't malicious. He's just repeating 1970s folklore that science quietly buried. Plus, the guy was in the trenches for years. He mastered the skill by piecing multiple facets together, probably without even realizing, in the same way that I did working with my clients. Real detection isn't about reading faces or feet. It's about listening for the moment language tries to protect us from a feeling that we're not ready to face. And the best news, once you spot the dodge, you're only one gentle question away from the truth. P.S. Wondering what to do to heal yourself once you've figured out that you were hiding things from yourself? Well, that's where the Happiness Hacks Lab comes in, packed full of tools, tips and techniques to help you take back control of your present moment so that you can craft a better future. Head to happinesshackslab.com and start healing today for free.